So, good evening and welcome to another edition of Super League Raw Weekly. It's lovely to have your company. As always, here with me is Greg Nixon. Good evening, Greg.
Good evening, sir. You well?
And good evening to Mr. Sale.
Good evening, everyone.
And yes, yet again, both myself and Greg at this moment in time. Yes, we're in two places at once. We're probably on a sun lounger somewhere, and you are watching us right here. Steph will be on the chat. Make sure you get your comments in the chat. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Super League Raw. Well, what we're going to be doing today to fill in the time, as always, we're going to look at round number 21 a bit later on and give you our predictions for that round, of course, just prior to Magic Weekend. But first and foremost, before we'd have a bit of sport, we decided that we were going to pick our all-time 1 to 13 Super League side. This is a personal thing, nothing more, nothing less. 1 to 13, and then we'll compare and we will contrast the picks that we have made. So what we'll do first and foremost, before we show you the graphic, is we will announce them from 1 to 13. Greg, do you want to kick off? Starting at your fullback, just go right the way through your squad.
Right the way through 1 to 13?
Yeah.
Okay, prepare for some pelters, people. That the Lord him out the country after Men of Steel. So, fullback, Sam Tomkins. I've got wingers, Joel Monaghan and Pat Richards.
Yeah.
Centres, Keith Senior and Jamie Lyon. In the halves, I've got Paul Deakin and Bobby Goulding. And then props, Walmsley and Morley. Hooker, Roby. Second row, Liam Farrell and Trent Waterhouse, and loose forward, Paul Sculthorpe.
Fabulous, wonderful. And Steph, exactly the same?
Yeah, I've gone, I have to be careful because I changed a couple. Fullback, Bevan French.
Yeah.
Wing, Leslie Vinacolo. Centre 1, Jamie Lyon. Centre 2, Gary Connolly. And on the other wing, Josh Charnley. And then I've gone Danny Maguire at 6 and a bit of a curveball one, Andrew Johns at 7, because he did have that stint. I've gone Sam Burgess as prop with Kieran Cunningham at hooker, Adrian Morley as me other prop, Sculthorpe at 11 with Gareth Ellis and Andy Farrell at 13.
There you go. Right. And I've gone Tomkins at fullback, my two wingers, Josh Charlie and Ryan Hall. I couldn't leave Ryan Hall out with his exploits in Super League. Jamie Lyon and Keith Senior, they were my two centres. At 6, Bevan French. At 7, Rob Burrow. 8 is Adrian Morley. 10, Alex Walmsley. 9, James Roby. Second row, 11, Liam Farrell. 12, Super Benny Westwood. That's a guilty pleasure. And 13, I've gone with Kevin Sinfield. That is what I've gone with. So let's get the old graphic up now, and you can see all of those side by side. There they are. I'll get rid of the captions for you. Right. Okay. So let's first and foremost go the players that we completely agree on. Everyone has gone Jamie Lyon. We spoke about him last week as part of our Man of Steel conversation. Fair to say, for the time that he was in Super League, fully deserving of a spot in centre.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, incredible player. Right, then in terms of, again, who we've all agreed with Adrian Morley at prop forward. Arguably the best prop forward we produced in the modern era, would we say?
I'd certainly say one of as a complete cop-out. You know, there's Sam Burgess, there's Jamie Peacock, Alex Walmsley's up there as well. But I think I chose Morley because he did it with he was successful at whichever club he went to. Leeds, over, down under, then he came to Bradford and won the grand final with Bradford on a short-term deal, like we tried to do with Andrew Johns. And then to Warrington. And yeah, we didn't get the grand final at Warrington, but he was part of that resurgence of the club. So that's why I went for Adrian Morley, because over some of the other great props, simply because he was a success at the height of his career, each club he went to.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Steph?
Peacock was up there in mine as well. Yeah, I nearly picked him. But also Stuart Fielden as well. There's one of my, that season when he went, I think it was from Bradford to Wigan, when Wigan were in the doldrums and they signed Fielden, and it kind of saved them. At one point they were looking at maybe relegation. Thing. There
was the McDermotts as well, Brian and Barry.
Yes, yeah. There's quite a few you could have picked from on this one.
I think Fielden, for me, just missed out because of that Willie Mason incident. And
he was never the same after that.
He was never the same after that.
No. I think Morley. I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of what Morley did when he came to Warrington. I think he, as much as Tony Smith, quite frankly, turned the squad around in terms of professionalism and what he did. And you're right. I mean, the first real trailblazer to go over to the NRL, Burgess was in his wake, really. I mean, what Moz did at South Sydney was the stuff of legend. Obviously, a bit pumped up for the international, of course, where he got sent off inside of 20 seconds. But we'll bypass that. But yeah, I mean, I think every fan across Super League, I've got nothing but respect for the beast that was Adrian Morley, and a lovely bloke off the field as well. Really, really good fella.
Yeah. He brought that professionalism to Warrington that we badly needed, I think. So that's I'm not viewing it through primrose and blue tinted specs either. He did a great job at Leeds, down under, and with Bradford as well for the short time he was at Bradford. So
he was very, very good indeed. Right, looking at this here, after that, we're really starting to struggle because I think if you look across the board, we're pretty much different other than Jamie Lyon and Adrian Morley. They were in all three of ours. So let's start at fullback. Greg, myself and you have gone with Tomkins. Steph's decided to go with his box office man, Mr. Bevan French. For me, love him or hate him, I think Tomkins has done enough over his career in this country to warrant the number one shirt. I know I put French in my halfbacks, and I'll explain why French is in the squad over other maybe longer serving halfbacks in the game when we get to that point. But I think at full back, in that position, I don't think for me there's been anybody as consistent over the Super League era than Sam Tomkins. Greg, is that why you went there?
Yeah, he could on his day he could turn a game, and we know we talked about the antics he used to get up to early in his career and frustratingly seemed to get away with, and it was glossed over by the media to some respect. But that aside, he matured and he grew up and he became a great player.
Yeah.
And that's why. But, there's Withers at Bradford, who was a great fullback. Bevan French, Jay Field. Jay Field's played fullback. What Dufty's doing at the minute. But, Tomkins has had a long career. He started, what was he, a 16, 17-year-old when he first broke through?
Yeah, he was a kid, wasn't he? He was a kid, yeah.
And, for him to still be thinking about playing now is incredible. But he's had that long career where once he got that element out of his game that would wind people up, he became a really, really good all-round fullback.
Yeah. I think the reason why Mr. French is at fullback is you wanted to be the Harlem Globetrotters and get Johns in. Am I right, Steph?
Absolutely. I mean, it's funny because I had Sam in my top 5 Man of Steel rankings, but I've looked at it from this in terms of if it was all those players was playing in the same era now, and this was a team I was picking now to take on, the best in the NRL, for example, this is the team that I'd put, and I've got to find a place for Bevan in my team. Can I just say as well, it's the second time in Super League history, Dave, you've misgendered me.
Why?
You've spelt me with a PH like a lady.
Have I?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Love it. Love it. Hey, and you know what? I'd love to say I did it on purpose, but I didn't. Anyway, you won't hold it against me.
That's going back in time now, Dave. Right,
mate, what you recognise yourself as is completely up to you, mate. That's what I'm saying.
We're all friends here, Steph.
We're all friends here.
I identify as a poor Super League pundit.
Right, let's get into the wingers. Right, this is interesting. Myself and Steph agreed on Charnley. Obviously, I've gone Hall. I'm not going to go into that. I mean, leading try scorer in Super League. He's been incredible, absolutely incredible for the sport. My two very similar. Got a bit of pace in the younger years. Very big units, very dangerous. Can score long range, but can also out muscle edges as well. We've seen that throughout the career. So that's why I went with my two. Understand why Greg has gone with Pat Richards, because of course those who watched last week's show knows that Greg picked Pat Richards as his number one man of steel based on his contribution to Wigan during his period there. But obviously you've got Joel Monaghan. Now, just for clarity, well, actually, Greg, you'll probably say it's part of why he's there. So over you.
Joel Monaghan, yeah, I can understand why Ryan Hall's in your team for the number of tries he scored. Ryan Hall has had a long, like Tomkins, has been around a long, long time. Joel Monaghan was here for 5 seasons and averaged a try a game.
Yeah.
That is a winger's job. And that's why I picked him. Reliable under the high ball. You could kick high to him on the wings and he'd score. He could score from inside his own half. The number of last-minute winning tries he scored when he's just forced his way through the defence. I could have picked Tommy Makinson, but then I'd have 2 goal-kicking wingers in my team. Tommy Makinson scores a lot of points. But for me, Joel Monaghan was really, really, when he got the ball, you knew something was going to happen.
Yeah.
As I say, I try a game. Yeah, maybe I'm biased. He's an ex-Warrington player. But for me, an average of at least 1 try a game over 4 or 5 seasons is a good return. And you balance that with Richards on the other side, who could kick goals as well. That's why I went for Monaghan over, Charnley or Hall or players like that. We've been blessed with a lot of really good wingers. The Bradford wingers in the early days of Super League were built like second rowers.
On that, Greg, one of Steph's wingers is Sir Leslie Rhinocolo. I have to admit, when he was in my head, when I was thinking wingers, was Big Leslie. He was some player, Steph.
Yeah, I think it just reminds me of Bullmania and all that starting, all the hype at Odsall. And I think just seeing him play in person and just the sheer size of someone moving that fast was frightening. And I'm sure there's quite a lot of players who didn't look forward to facing up to Leslie on the wing. So that's why I had him in there. And I did have, Pat Richards, based on what Reggie was saying last week's show, was a thought for his goal kicking as well, more than anything. But the reason I didn't put Ryan Hall in and put Charnley in instead was I think if Charnley hadn't have had that stint in rugby union, he would now be the top try scorer in Super League. So that's why I went over Charnley over.
Good point. That's a good point.
Well, I mean, the same, but equally, Hall, of course, had a sabbatical at South Sydney, didn't he? And I think these two, that's why they were both in my team. I think when you do it over that length of time, they've been great wingers in Super League. So I had to go that way. I think it's fair to say, just in closing with Monaghan as well, I think had Monaghan not got injured in that Wigan grand final of 2014, I think that was the one that got away from Warrington. Yeah. I think that was the moment. I think had that have not happened, had the heads not gone at half time, had not been injured in the second half, and we were playing Leigh at fullback, it just snowballed from the moment Monaghan went off. But 145 tries in 145 appearances. That is, and that's Super League. I mean, that is incredible from Monaghan. So fully understand why Greg has put him in there. Right, we spoke about Jamie Lyon last week, chaps. Both myself and Greg have gone Keith Senior. Senior, 5 Challenge Cups, 2 World Club champions. I mean, it's one of those that in that golden era of Leeds Rhinos, Senior is one of those that can often be forgotten about. Because, we automatically go to the likes of Peacock, Maguire, etc., etc. Keith Senior at that time for me was arguably one of the best centres in the world.
Easily.
Yeah. He had everything about him: solid in defence, great in attack. He was a part of a champion Leeds Rhinos team, and as a just shy of a try every other game for the Leeds Rhinos was Keith Senior. Which again, for a centre, that's steady away, isn't it?
Yeah, he's still in. Is he still in the top 5 all-time scorers.
He scored 100. Well, he scored 227 tries. So I think he's very much up there.
Yeah, I think he is in the top 5. But yeah, like everything you said about him, if you saw him coming down the road, you'd seen your crossover, wouldn't you? I mean, he was a terrifying prospect. To have him running at you with a ball in hand, I think I'd have retired on the spot and gone and stood in the crowd and watched him. Just a beast. And I picked him because he doesn't get the plaudits he deserves.
No.
As you say, Burrows and Sinfield and Sinfield, quite rightly so. But he scored a lot of tries and his defence was solid. He kept out as many as he scored.
Yeah.
Probably more. And that's why I went for him. Originally, I had Ben Barber in there, and then I thought about it and thought, no, Ben Barber was okay for the short time he was here, but over a longer period, I'd rather have not faced Keith Senior, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I can't disagree with that. I mean, Steph, you've gone Gary Connolly, of course, great player for one of the few players that gone from Saints to Wigan in the career, Gary Connolly. But again, just when you consider those stats over Senior's try scoring ratio, I think 365 games. I say just under about 100. And, what did I say? His tries were about 226.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 226. 191 tries, Connolly, in 486. So a bit of a difference, but a very, very good player, Gary Connolly.
Yeah. Is that just Super League or included
Super
in
League?
Right. I've got him as 528 appearances and 200 tries, but that includes Canterbury.
Yeah.
When he went over there. But yeah, no, Gary Connolly was one of those as I was growing up, was, an unbelievably good winger. I did have Senior as my second one. I also had a little tinkle at Steve Renouf as well, who was at Wigan. Famous for his skull hat, what he famously used to wear, but he was a great centre as well. But I think it's more as well. He did 31 games for Great Britain as well, and it was that kind of era of going down to Wembley with my granddad, watching the Test matches and stuff like that. And I remember Gary playing in those games. A bit of nostalgia, but I think his stats speak for himself, as you'll know, Dave. He's right up there with the best centres ever to play the game in a very good Wigan side, but also Widnes and St Helens as well.
And he was a decent fullback as well.
Yes.
He had versatility, didn't he? There's no doubt about it. I got like say good player. And modern day as well. I mean, it would be a miss for me not to mention Percival. I think Percival in the modern day has been very good. I wouldn't put him in my all-time 13 in a team like this, but I think it's only right and appropriate that you give a nod to Percival because he's been a class act.
Paul Newlove as well. He was a great.
Paul Newlove,
he was on my thoughts as well.
But I don't know. In the same way that Steph put Andrew Johns, and there's been players like Matty King who at Warrington who over a season or two were incredible. I mean, Petter Hickey at Warrington and at KR has been a good player. But I think over the course of the careers, I mean, some of these lads' careers aren't finished. I don't think we're a million miles off on either side there. Right, let's get into these halfbacks. I'm going to kick us off because I need to explain. Let's look at the spine as we're doing this. The halfbacks, the hookers, and the loose forwards. So my rationale in terms of my team was Bevan French. I wanted a bit of razzmatazz, and also Robbie Burrow. We said when Rob passed, you hated this guy in terms of the opposition because you just knew that he was the game breaker. He was the man who was going to crop up. So I think a French and Burrow 7-6 would frighten the life out of any side, especially with a pack like the one I've picked. Then you look at 13. You put Reggie, you put Sculthorpe, Farrell, arguably two of the best number 13s ever. I just felt, in a balanced kind of way, I needed a leader. I needed somebody who could manage a game. And what I think Sinfield showed, probably more so than Farrell and Sculthorpe, especially in the grand finals, Kev Sinfield knew when to take the temperature out the game, when to ramp the game up. His goal kicking was unsurpassed in those games. So I had to get Kev Sinfield in there for that reason. Roby picks himself for me. I appreciate you've gone Cunningham, but for me, Roby eclipses Cunningham for me personally. And I just felt that, I just needed Kevin Sinfield in there at 13 over Sculthorpe or Farrell. And like I say, Robbie Burrow, he just terrorised defences. Very interesting in yours though, Greg. Paul Deakin, Bobby Golding. That's going to take a lot of people by surprise. So over to you, sir.
Paul Deakin, for me, the most underrated half this country's ever produced. The early 2000s, he was up there. His stats were up there. He never got man of steel, and yet he was kicking goals, scoring tries, dropping goals, organising a big Bradford pack around the pitch. Small in stature, but his defence was fantastic. And for me, he frightened me to death when Warrington played against him. I think he went to Wigan, and I don't think he quite recaptured his form for Wigan. I think I'm right in saying that. I think he followed Nobby to Wigan. And I don't think he kind of didn't settle into their culture as well as he did at Bradford. But for me, Paul Deakin should have won Man of Steel at some point in his career when he was at the top of his game. It's
a great shout because, Deakin, again, there'll be younger people who are watching this. Let's not forget, you might not have heard of Paul Deakin because he's not that type of player that you might have heard of. But this is a guy who won 4 Super League titles, 2 Challenge Cups. He's also a World Club champion. So, believe me, Paul Deakin was a quality player who knew how to get Bradford, but especially in his Bradford days, knew how to get that Bradford Bulls team around the park. So, yeah, I'm like I say, just thought I'd put that in as a caveat. Your thoughts on Deakin, Steph?
Yeah, very, very solid player. Didn't he have a really bad facial injury as well in a Great Britain game?
I think he might have done, yeah.
He did, yeah. Or something like that. I seem to remember with Deakin. But yeah, I mean, he was a bit like Leslie Vinacolo, that Bullmania era, fantastic player. And I think he did get quite a few Great Britain caps as well, didn't he, Deakin?
Yeah. So, you can see him in the Great Britain shirt.
Yeah, I'd probably compare him a bit to Leigh Briers, but where he probably gets one over Leigh is that he did actually play for Great Britain and did all that for him. But yeah, to have the talents he had and the kicking as well that he had was, he was a great player. And you're right, he's very underrated. And considering the silverware that's hung up in the Deakin household, he is very, very underrated.
Yeah.
And then Bobby Goulding. Bobby Goulding, again, on his day, an incredible talent.
Playable on his day.
Incredible talent. Again, parts of his career maybe went missing, but he did sparkle. More honours than I say that, unbelievably, I think he won more Challenge Cups than he did Super League. I think he only got 1 Super League title, Goulding.
Can't remember now. I think he might. I don't think he might be right there. Yeah.
Put it in the chat.
I'm sure he left Saints before it really took off. I think he only had the 1 Super League, but I think he won at least 4 or 5 Challenge Cups.
And I know what you're saying about Rob Burrow and Danny Maguire, and they are brilliant players. But I when was thinking about this, I thought about the players that could, and Maguire and Burrow could do this, don't get me wrong, but Bobby Goulding was just, mercurial in some games, untouchable, and would, again, frighten you to death. So that's why I've gone for those 2. And again, I think Bobby Goulding probably wasn't kind of not talked about. He was given the praise he deserved, but he was just a great player. Just a great player. You could, if you were a neutral, you just enjoyed watching what Bobby Goulding can do, and if he was playing against your team, you were terrified of him.
Yeah, no, I can't argue with that. Steph, obviously, you've gone Danny Maguire. Andy Johns, arguably the best player in the world, at the time. So that, I think it's a bit of a cheat that he only played a couple of games and you whacked him in there. I think you've took liberties, quite frankly. But it's fine. It's not a problem. He played Super League, but.
Listen. The rules were they had to have played in Super League. That was If there's an immortal on the table, I'm taking him.
Fair play to you. But then you put, so that doesn't need any. Obviously, Andy Johns, we don't need to big him up. But you've gone Danny Mag.
Yeah. Again, someone who lit up Super League for me, especially in his early career, and the only one I've left out in terms of top try scorers is Ryan Hall, who was very, very close to being in my team. But for a Standoff to be the top try scorer in Super League is phenomenal. When you think of your Joe Monaghan's with a try, I know obviously he's played a lot more games in Super League, but for a Standoff to have that amount of tries, and I just think that combination with him, Sinfield and Burrow was just unbelievable. And it's the long range and the backing up tries, a bit like Briley at Salford. Very, Briley must have moulded his game on Danny Maguire in terms of support play, and I think Danny was one of those that became the modern day Standoff for me in terms of it's not just about creating, it's about backing up and looking for those gaps and getting those tries as well. So that's why I put him in. There's definitely tries in my team.
Oh, well, there's tries in all of them, Steph. Don't be like that. But I tell you, but what I will say is, as Bobby George once said, trebles for show, doubles for dough. Don't forget who set up quite a lot of those tries. It'd be my number 7. Anyway, I want to stick.
I think Andrew Johns would have set him up a bit as well. To be fair,
I'm going to stick with you because myself and Greg have gone the same. We've gone Walmsley, Robert, Morley. You haven't. So why? I mean, and I get. If you just consider Super League for a minute, I know what you've done and I get that, but I do. But Burgess over Walmsley and Morley, considering what the other two have done, I sort of get the Walmsley Burgess bit, perhaps, when you're taking Scout and RL, but solely on what they did on a Super League field, would you still back the Burgess and the Bradford Bulls over Walmsley or?
No, because again, the criteria that I was thinking was that they'd played Super League. Obviously, the best rugby Sam Burgess played was for South, 100% it was. But if I'm picking a team, then Sam Burgess is first name on my team sheet, just because he's the ultimate warrior for me. He changed a lot of how I looked at prop forwards and stuff. Him and Morley, to be fair. But I think any props that go over to Australia and win grand finals, and also to be revered and still talked about now in the NRL, have to be on my team sheet.
Okie dokie. Rules of engagement for future shows like this: be more hard on Steph in terms of stipulations. That's what we're saying.
I'm in it to win it. I want the best.
But here's one for you. Yeah, none of us, people that missed out on this. You know, we talked about the likes of Fieldings and others. Nobody's mentioned James Graham.
No. Well, he was another one who was on my potential. Because again, like I just said, in terms of being revered over in Australia, which is obviously the pinnacle of our game, James Graham, he's on the talk shows over there and their primetime shows, and he's on there for a reason, because he wasn't only a solid, tough player. He knows what he's talking about, and he knows the game very well. And again, to go there and get the respect of the Aussies. He would 100% be my interchange bench. 100%.
I was just going to say that. I'll be bringing him and Peacock off the bench.
Oh, all day. I mean, the one thing, I mean, it's mad because if there's iconic moments, we mentioned about Farrell, I think when we did last week's show in terms of the nose band on and playing on. I always remember James Graham after Saints lost to Wigan and he got the players in a huddle and he gave them what for. In terms of this isn't happening again. Look at that scoreboard. Look at who you play. It was an iconic moment, never seen before after a Wigan Saints game. And he just got them all in the round and he absolutely tore into him. And I can't remember if he went on to win the grand final that year, but incredible leader.
He did the same at Canterbury. I think this is why he's got the respect of the Aussies, because he went there and he wasn't bothered who they were. Personalities and reputations were left on the sideline for James Graham. And I think they were a bit shocked when he originally went over. But the amount of times I saw him giving stick to players, and if they weren't performing, he'd tell them 100%.
Why Cunningham over Roby?
I've just gone for pure size in my front row. And I think Roby was obviously, again, he'd be my interchange hooker coming on. But for me, there's a reason he's got a statue outside St Helens ground. And I'm sure Roby will have in the future as well. But for for me, he was just a powerhouse hooker who could. He got tries in crucial games as well. When they needed it, he would barge over from short range, and he kind of mastered that scoop from halfback close up to just poach tries all the time. And I think he was instrumental in the development of Mickey Iam and James Roby in terms of hookers in the St. Helens ilk.
Yeah. I mean,
you make a good point. And Cunningham was very close in mine, as was James Lowes, to be honest.
Yeah,
Jimmy Lowes.
James Lowes and Cunningham were kind of very, very similar types of hookers.
Yeah, and it's bad, isn't it? But and maybe, do you know what? And this is the bad thing about this. And I'm going to be honest, because I'm always honest. Daz Clark signs for Wigan or for Saints. He's in this conversation.
Yeah.
And that's the reality. When Clarkey went to Warrington, great player for Warrington, but has not got the medals that a player of his stature deserved. If he'd have gone to Wigan or gone to Saints, or dare I say, it'd have gone to Leeds, not that that'd have happened probably. Believe me, Daz Clark's in this conversation, but unfortunately for Daz Clark, he went to Warrington, and that's me being really honest. As Warrington knocked on the door, he's been great, absolute respect to him, but that's the reality of the situation. That's why Daz Clark's not in this conversation. It's a real shame. Real shame. Right, we'll move on because time is ebbing away. It's unbelievable how quick these go when we get into it. Right, second rows. Liam Farrell. I mean, for me, Greg, you've gone with me. We're massive fans of Liam Farrell. I think he's been in the. Here's a stat for you. Since 2019, he's been in every dream team. Since 2019. That's some going when you consider the second rows in our comp over the last 5 years. Quite exceptional. I think he for me, I'm not for Steph, obviously he's gone Globetrotters as we know. But for me, Liam Farrell from a consistency point of view, all day long. Ben Westwood, I'm gonna go Ben Westwood, and then I'll bring Greg in on Waterhouse, and then we'll pass to Steph just to say why he's been taking the sweeties out of the tin. So what I would say is Benny Westwood. We were privileged for a period of time. For me, there was nothing better than Liam Farrell and Ben Westwood on the same pitch. These were two players. I mean, my team there, loads of pace in the back line, in the hooking positions, but real solid steel, in those two front rows. And I just wanted a bit of defence on the edges. And Ben Westwood and Liam Farrell give you both. They give you attacking strike. They give you solid defence. Benny Westwood, I mean, you've talked about statues. I mean, for me, and there's a lot of people in Warrington feel the same way. For I think a pre-season game, they renamed the South Stand the Benny Westwood Stand. I'd have no argument with that. I'd have absolutely no argument. And people will go, oh yeah, but what about Breers and what about? Yeah, fine. They deserve a part of that. But what Benny Westwood did for Warrington, I mean, he's just unbelievable. He was one of the hardest second rowers to play in Super League. Gave 100% every game. Lovely fellow off the field. Guilty pleasure. Think Super Benny is deserving of that title. Super Benny Westwood. I'm making no apologies for it. And let me tell you now, any second rower or centre that went up against Benny Westwood would probably be now nodding at the screen going, yeah, I sort of see why, because nobody enjoyed playing Super Benny Westwood. You've gone Trent Waterhouse, Greg. Go on.
Yeah, I think he and Benny Westwood are the perfect second row pairing. One was defensively minded, and Trent Waterhouse, yeah, he was good in defence, but by God, he could he could run, and he could set up tries, and he could score tries, and could force his way over the try line. I remember in the playoff semi-finals at Totally Wicked Stadium, or the Bonnie Langford Stadium, whatever it was called in those days. He turned the game. He was the difference between the two teams on the day, Trent Waterhouse. Benny Westwood, well, it's as the words of the famous song go, when we signed Ben Westwood, he stopped us going down. That's how big he is to the club. But I went with defence with Farrell and attack through Trent Waterhouse. Trent Waterhouse was the perfect second rower as far as I'm concerned. It's a bit like, Fitzgibbon's got the potential to do that as well, if he can stay injury free. But I watched Waterhouse play for the Aussies and play down under, and I always thought, blimey, I wish he'd come to Super League. And when Warrington signed him, it was like Christmas Day come early. And certainly one of my favourite players to ever have played the game. And to see him in a Warrington shirt. So maybe a bit of primrose and blue glasses, but he was a superb running second rower.
Well, I'm not being funny. Mine's got a little bit of primrose and blue there where Wesley's concerned. So do you know what I mean? Why not? I've been unbiased for 4 years. Forgive me, folks. I'm putting.
When you think of the second rowers we've had, Gareth Ellis.
Oh mate. Well, yeah. I mean, on that point, Ellis, incredible servant to the game of rugby league and top draw stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, a bit of a theme in mine is the NRL connection as well, and they've gone and done it over there. But what a servant Gareth Ellis has been to the game. Leeds, Hull FC, wherever he's been absolutely outstanding. I did have Liam Farrell was one of my. He would be an interchange for me on there, so I do agree on that one. Ben Westwood, I'd love to put in, but with Sam Burgess and Adrian Morley in my team, I want to keep at least 11 on the pitch by the end.
That's harsh. That's harsh. Very harsh. And just again, just a moment of primrose and blue. Louis Anderson was a player in the second round.
Louis and Vinny were both good players.
I thought Louis was better, mate.
Yeah.
Louis was outstanding. Absolutely outstanding.
Vinny was more versatile. Vinny could put Vinny practically everywhere except maybe prop, and he'd do a job for you. Whereas Louis Anderson was a solid second rower.
Yeah. No, can't disagree. And in the interest of time, the rest really do. Nobody's going to argue any of them loose forwards. Obviously, Scullthorpe was put in the second row for Steph. I mean, look, in closing, chaps, clearly one thing's for certain, we're not doing this with a salary cap in mind. What I would say on each of these, though, I think all of those teams probably win Super League. Probably. Yeah. Would win Super League, yes. I think. NRL, I think they'd also be very competitive over there if they was to run out.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Forget Super League. I think if that team ever went on the field in Super League in any era, I think it comes off winning more than it loses more and wins a lot of grand finals. But I'd feel confident putting any of those out against NRL.
Definitely.
Yeah. So hopefully you've had a right good time in the chat debating your 1 to 13. That's where we've gone. Like I say, only for fun, bit of bias in the odd position there, but it's past 40 minutes and I fully enjoyed having that chat. And of course, it's a moving beast. So who knows, in 5 years' time, we might revisit that and things may have changed because there's a lot of quality players currently applying their trade right now in the Betfred Super League. For example, had Tom Amone not jettisoned out of Leigh, would he have been in the conversation and he has stuck around for 5 more years? Quite possibly. Anyway, we're now going to move forward, of course, prediction show time. We're going to have to be quick. We've got 20 minutes. But then again, we're 2 weeks out as we record this. So, flip a coin for some of them. But anyway, let's give a quick note out to our sponsor and then we'll crack on.
He's target 5. Here comes
Love that crunch.
Let me add a little bit of spice.
So there you go, round number 21. We were saying, me, Greg, before we went on air, where is this season going? Quite remarkable, really. But these are the games for round number 21. The Saints will host Salford. The Robins take on the Tigers. Giants go up against the Dragons. Rhinos hosting the Wigan Warriors. The Leopards go up against Hull FC. And finally, the London Broncos, for the second time this season, well, they will entertain the Warrington Wolves. Let's start with that top fixture then. Head-to-head, Saints against Salford, 48-11 in overtime. Last 5, 3-2. 3-2 to the Salford Red Devils. Incredible. Actually, it's the other way around. My apologies. It's 3-2 to Saints. But the last 2 wins have gone the way of Salford. 24-20 and 20 points to 18. Quite incredible. A double against the Saints this year. Could Salford do the treble? That's the question, gentlemen. Greg, your thoughts? Can Salford do the treble?
They can, but I don't think they will. I think Salford have gone off the boil a little bit. I think hopefully by the time, for Saints fans anyway, by the time this game comes around, they may have a few more bodies back.
Yeah.
I think to push, I think that to beat them twice, to beat them for the first time in 40 years at St Helens, it takes some doing. I think it's just. I don't think it's going to happen again. I think Saints will have learned lessons from the last time. I think they definitely went in there thinking they were going to win the game before kick-off. Saints, I think we can safely say that they didn't perform on the night. Salford, having said that, were brilliant and hung in there. I think Saints will win. I think Saints will win 9-17.
Well, I mean, on the photo of the 21-man squad for round number 19 was Tim Lafay. So Tim Lafay looks like he'll probably be around by the time we get to it, give or take injuries. We haven't got a clue. A lot could happen between now and then. But Alex Walmsley is scheduled for his return in this game against Salford as well, Steph. And if that is true, that's massive, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And if I know this is pre-recorded, so if my predictions of a Saints loss to Leigh and to Castleford, they'll be definitely marking this one as one to win. No, getting those players back is huge for Saints, and I think they'll be looking for a response in this one. So I think it'll still be close, though. I think Salford are going to get a couple of players back, and I've gone for Saints 1-8.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, like I say, I can't see anything but a Saints win. But let's be fair, Salford fans, to have beaten Saints twice this year, you'll take that, I'm quite sure. But I'm going Saints 9-17 this far out on that one. Right, we now move across to Hull KR taking on Castleford, 16-13 in KR's favour. The last 5-4-1 in the favour of KR. The last time out in round 15 at the Jungle, 13-12. Nobody saw that one coming. A real grind in that one. The Robins will, of course, go into this favourite, and rightly so. They'll be probably looking very much up at League Leader Shield. Certainly home semi-final spot, Steph. You would not expect KR at Craven Park at this point in the season, a week out from Magic, to not win against Castleford, would you?
No, it's critical game for Hull KR, this one, in the like you rightly say, a home playoff. Their fans will not allow a loss in this game. I think it'll be a good win for them as well. I think they'll be 18 plus in this game.
Greg?
Yeah, hopefully they'll be coming off the back of a defeat to Warrington. Fingers crossed. So yeah, I'm with Steph. I'm seeing 18 plus for Hull KR.
Fair enough. Again, I'm going 18 plus KR. I think KR now will, at this point in the season, will start trying to kick on now. They'll want to put some markers down because the playoffs is only just around the corner. Now it's about building momentum for what is the most vital part of the season, as we all know. Right, now we go off to the John Smith Stadium. The Giants taking on the Dragons. Over here, history, it's been the Giants 25-20. The last 5, 3-2 to the Dragons. Incredible. Look at this here, round 15 at Perpignan, 22 points to 18. But let's not forget, Huddersfield were the team that knocked Catalan out of the Challenge Cup this season. The attack, nothing in it. Defence, slightly favouring Catalan Dragons. You do feel that this has to be a win at this stage of the season for the Catalan Dragons, because if they was to lose these type of games, that is where the likes of Leeds, Leigh, and maybe even Huddersfield could be just reining them in alongside maybe perhaps the Salford Red Devils. Really interesting game. Do we expect Huddersfield to topple the Dragons, or do you think it will be a good win for the Dragons? What's your thoughts, Greg?
This is a difficult one. Again, we're 2 weeks down the road, so anything could have happened. And I just fancy the Giants for this one, and that's Greg and his mates running to the hills screaming no. I fancy the Giants for this one because I think I tipped them to get beat last week, if I remember correctly. And I think the Giants are going to bounce back and a 1-8 win for the Giants.
Wow. We know that Catalan can sometimes not travel well, Steph. Do you agree with Greg? Do you see it, Huddersfield?
I do. I think they'll be buoyed by Luke Robinson signing a 3-year contract as head coach. Bear in mind, this is 2 weeks before we pre-recorded. No, I think they've seems to get this confidence back in them now, and I think Catalan have struggled a little bit away from home. And at home as well, been very inconsistent. So I think they're there for the taking in this one. I'm going Huddersfield 1-8.
Yeah, I'm. You know what? We're 2 weeks out, and we're going to repredict anyway. I'm going to make Mr. Roach happy. I'm going to go with Joel, with Greg, with Ryan, all the boys down there. Go on, let's go. Let's be brave while it doesn't matter. 9-17 Giants. Go on, the Giants. Happy days. Right, let's go into the Rhinos against the Warriors. This should be an absolute belter. Look at this, guys. Look at this first slide. 45-34 in history to the Wigan Warriors. The last 5, 3-2 to the Leeds Rhinos. But here's one for you. The last 5 at AMT Headingley. 4-1 to the Warriors. The last time the Leeds Rhinos beat Wigan at Headingley was 2017. That's unbelievable. Attack 27-17 in the favour of Wigan, 18-14 more conceded there for the Rhinos. So history not on the Rhino side when it comes to Headingley and Wigan. If they've gone down to the Warrington Wolves a couple of rounds back, they're not going to be wanting to slip up too many times, obviously. But then let's not forget, it will be Saints the week after at Magic. So, other things as well there.
And will they have not played Leigh as well in that rearranged game?
That'll have been the Tuesday before. So it is a short turnaround for Wigan. And this is mad. This is the first time they've met this year.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
How bonkers is that? Unbelievable. Yeah. Round 21, first time Leeds have played Wigan. They're going to play them twice in the last few rounds of the season. Really good point about the League game, obviously on the Tuesday night. Short turnaround for Wigan into the Leeds game. That said, I can't bet against Wigan. I think the fact that they have played Leigh, of course, who's to say that Leigh hasn't turned them over by the time people are watching this. But I think Wigan, no matter what, will get the job done. But I'm going to go 1-8 based on the fact that they'll have had a really difficult fixture midweek coming into this game.
Yeah. I think we should all predict the Leigh Wigan one at the end as a little curveball thing. But I think we're going to be smarting in this one after a terrible performance against Leigh. So I'm going to go Wigan 9-17.
Greg,
I'm going Wigan 9-17.
Yeah,
because I think Wigan could possibly, against Leigh, field a few more of the reserves.
Right.
I don't think they will.
with Leeds and Saints coming up over the next couple of weeks. That's just my own personal feeling. But I think they could quite possibly have lost to Leigh or not beat them by as much as they thought they should. And I'll see. Did I say 9-17 Wigan? Yeah.
Yeah, if you say so, I'll be getting them near the time. But what I would say here is what a run of fixtures for Wigan. Warrington, Leigh, Leeds, Saints. Let me tell you now, and it's not beyond the realms of possibility, if they go 4 from 4 in them, you may as well shut the book now on 2024. Because that'd be some statement of intent from the Warriors. Do I expect them to win all 4? Absolutely not. Who do I think will beat them? Who knows? But yeah, that will be a massive statement in 10. Right, we've got 10 minutes, so let's quickly go through this one. The Leopards taking on Hull FC. In history since 2005, 4 apiece and a draw. Couldn't be closer, really. The last 5, though, 4-1 to the Leopards. Round 5 at the MKM, 54 points to 4. A win for the Leigh Leopards. Should be a problem for you, Steph? Should it?
I think at home we should have enough to beat them, even though Hull FC have been great in these last few weeks. I don't think it'll be anywhere near the scoreline that we beat them up there at the MKM. I'm expecting them to come with a lot more, especially the young lads that they've been playing really well for them as well. So I am going to go for a Leigh win, obviously. At home, I'm going to go to Leigh 9-17.
Greg, Leigh to get the job done against Hull FC?
It's a tough one, this, because Leigh will have played Wigan.
Correct.
And I think a lot depends on the outcome of that game. And this is where Steph's going to fall out with me. I'm going to go Hull 1-8. Sorry, Steph.
There you go. I'm going to stick with Leigh, like in the same vein that I said Wigan. No, I think it'd be tighter because of that game against Wigan. I'm going to go Leigh 1-8. But again, it'd be a fascinating.
Oh, that's a great game. I think that's going to be a great game.
Especially the way Hull FC are playing at the moment. They've got nothing to lose. So yeah, happy days. Good luck, of course, to both sides on that. And then, this shouldn't take us too long. London, Warrington going back to London, played them twice this year. Once at the Challenge Cup, of course, came through that. And as you can see there, 58 points to 4. Warrington, of course, beat the London Broncos. Don't forget, though, first half, London had it doesn't look like it, but London had a proper go at Warrington in that first half. Warrington ran away with it, as many teams in the second half against London. 5-0, the last 5 between these two. All roads lead to Warrington. I'm going 18 plus Warrington. Guys?
I'm going 1-8 London.
Wow, you need to
Reggie, just to see Reggie's face. No, 18 plus Warrington.
18 plus Warrington.
Nurse, he's escaped again.
yeah, safe and well checked for Steph. Legendary. Yeah, where are you going, Greg?
London 9-17.
9-17 London.
No, 18 plus Warrington.
Fantastic. Look, we've whistle stop tour that little bit. Look, we haven't got a clue. We're 2 weeks out. What we wanted to do was we wanted to make sure that Super League Raw Weekly was on your screens Tuesday night, 8 p.m. as always. It was a fascinating chat over the 1-13. We've gone through that. You'll have been going off in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure you will have done in terms of what's been going on. In terms of your predictions, and of course, Steph will have been getting involved with you during the course of the night. We hope you appreciate that we've done this. We didn't want there to be a gap in the schedule for you, and we hope we've delivered what has been an entertaining hour of rugby league chat and merriment, as I always say. Right, we're not quite sure how next week is going to go. It just may be that we do an entire show on the Friday. That's guaranteed. 8 o'clock Friday, the day before Magic. There is going to be a show. There will be a Magic special. What we might do is we might do a show on the Tuesday, which will be very much based on the previous week's fixtures and the awards. So, of course, we'll have the awards for July that we'll need to do, and there'll be far too much to do in one show. So what we might do, providing that Greg and Steph are happy with it, we might have a show on the Tuesday night at 8 o'clock as normal, looking back on round 21 and doing the awards. No talk of Magic Weekend on that show. It'll just be very much maybe a couple of Q&As as well. We'll have an hour together on the Tuesday night. And then I'll put something together for a Magic Weekend special where we will look ahead to a weekend that hopefully we'll all remember for the rest of our lives. We know a lot of you guys who watch us, the Super League Raw family, are going to be joining us at Ellen Road. It's going to be a cracking weekend. It's going to be great to see faces that we've never seen before. Lots of photo ops in terms of with each other and get it all over our social media channels. And hopefully we spread the gospel that is Super League Raw, because people will think, I want to be in their gang, because we're going to have a right good do. So we'll finalise how next week is going to look. And, of course, keep your eyes tuned on all our social media platforms where we will let you know what is going to go on there. But as always, from me to my two mates, Greg and Steph, thanks very much indeed for doing another one. Steph, go on, mate.
Can we quickly just do the Leigh Wigan predictions, because that is going to be the thing.
It's been and gone. It's been and gone. We forgot to do that last week. So we forgot to do that last week.
What did we think then, just out of interest?
I think it's at Wigan, isn't it? I think Wigan 9-17.
Wigan 9-17.
Leigh 1-8. Come on.
Everybody now knows what the result of that was and who's right and who's wrong. So that's outstanding. But yeah, keep your eyes peeled. Of course, all the predictions will be posted on Facebook as per usual. But that is another Super League Raw Weekly in the bag. More announcements to come in terms of the close season as well when we get further down the track. But on behalf of all of us here, whilst me and Greg continuing to enjoy the sunshine, you guys look after yourself, and we'll be back for more Super League Raw Weekly next week.
See you guys.